be a tough act to follow, hearing from such eloquent young people, but I'm confident in your abilities here as well. So as we heard from our keynote speaker, young leaders are really what we need right now to impact to combat these impacts that we're really feeling across all of our generations on the impacts of climate change to mental health. So I'm going to follow a similar structure for what we've had for our first panel here and allow you to introduce yourselves. But really what I'd love to know from each of you in your introductions, if you can share with us your name, of course, where you're coming from, and if you could tell us how the way you feel about climate change has led you to be present with us at COP29. So really focusing on how emotions have driven you to where you are today. So we'll start with Meg.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the floor. So my name is Meg. I am originally coming from Mongolia, and also I actually come from a pastoralist nomadic background, and also an indigenous heritage. And I'm a grassroots climate advocate, as well as a co-founder of a grassroots initiative called Climate Mongolia, and we work with our NGO on actually building the capacity of young people in climate advocacy education, as well as policy advocacy and research. And also, apart from that, I work as a communications consultant for the ILO office in the Pacific Islands, but I actually work remotely for that, but mainly I'm engaged with my own community in Mongolia. So how I got into what I do right now was actually led by my anxiety to climate crisis. So it went through several phases, actually. First being a lot of confusion and feeling of doom and anxiety when myself actually coming from a nomadic community, some of my family members living in Mongolia in the rural areas were directly impacted by a natural disaster named Zot. Actually, this natural disaster is unique to my region, my country. It is a severe winter natural disaster that actually affects the livestock of herders. So it is a periodic phase where there is an increased winter storms and snowfall that creates a layer in the steppes where the herds, the livestock, they cannot get access to, they cannot feed onto the grass. So in a short period of time, they actually, all of the livestock, they can die. So it happened to a very close, actually my aunt's family, who are living as nomads, and it was very devastating for that family that they just within 1 week they lost all of their income, all of their livestock that their life depended, and they did not have any other ways to live, so they had to move to the city, like thousands of herders are currently doing right now. And that Zot is actually one of the main factors of climate migration in my country. So actually seeing those impacts and also seeing the lack of awareness or the priority that is given to climate change really made me feel like I first very confused why there was a lack of action, and that I needed to do something. Though myself I did not really have access to those same resources, so it really made me to look for those resources, look for like-minded people who are actually very much worried about it. And then successfully, very great, happily, I was able to find like-minded people who I decided to co-found my NGO to implement those projects. So yeah, sorry for a long answer. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks so much, Meg. I think it's a good reminder that climate change is not just happening now. It's really it's not happening in the future. It's happening now. So thanks so much. JP, over to you.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Actually, we met yesterday with another event that we did here, and we talked about our project and what we've been doing. And Patricia and the team were so kind to say that they wanted to also listen to what we have to say. I'm JP Amaral. I'm from Brazil. Very happy to have you next year in COP30. I work in an institution called Alana. We work for children's rights and the children's development. And I'm a head of nature in this agenda, so we've been working on how can children's rights be incorporated into climate negotiations. And actually, I wasn't supposed to be here, but actually Thaisa, who is 14 years old, indigenous child from the Amazon, from the north region of Brazil. We just had an action there on the main hall, and she had a really, really beautiful speech, but also very hurtful for her, which connects a lot to the subject of this discussion, right? So she couldn't come here, and for the safeguarding, we kept her to rest. But the point is, especially seeing here CGE, which we've been always seeing, already saw all the activities that were done in COP16 in biodiversity, seeing a huge group of children being there. The truth is they weren't supposed to be here. That's the truth. They weren't supposed to be covering for the adults for not doing our responsibility, right? And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm covering for Thaisa, let's say, to really for everything that she and a lot of other children and youth that I've been seeing here that have been doing for them. So I think the feeling first is that we need to really have empathy for these children and youth advocates, because they were supposed to be playing or being educated, thinking about their future, their lives, their family, and not thinking about their future in the sense of what has been the climate risk. So I think we're already moving or shifting from the point of seeing climate anxiety only as something that, oh, they listen to the news and they get anxious, but they're actually living this, they're actually suffering. And I could see that on Thaisa's speech right now, especially as an indigenous person who is not only fighting for climate change, but fighting for the rights of their territory, which in Brazil is being in dispute, right? They're losing their territory, so that's the big challenge. And I will just say that connecting to her story and to what she feels and what she also said there, and I think it connects a lot to what you said right now, is something I read once about an article about Greta's journey, which was she was suffering a lot from anxiety and also from depression and so on, and actually she shifted that once she saw what she could do with the climate strikes, with the Fridays for Future movement. And that is a term, a concept called constructive hope, which is, and that's how I feel normally when I come to COP. I try to put my energy on the constructive hope of, let's make this, let's do this, let's make this happen. Even if it is a small change that we see in a person or in a delegate and a negotiator, it's something, but that makes me move, right? That's what makes me move. And for now, that's what I'm focusing on, in the presence, right? That's all about the mindfulness that teaches us be in the present. So I think that's where I put my energy. That's what I learned from Thaisa right now. She said, well, from all this suffering, what I'm doing is I'm still here because that's what moves me to keep on fighting. So let's learn from her, from other children, and keep moving.
So much, JP. It's a very, very good reminder that we talk a lot about representation and we really champion youth and children for being present, but really they shouldn't be. And they should be playing. They shouldn't be here, and youth should be out studying. And so we thank you for being here in her presence, and I hope that she recovers well. And thank you very much for your remarks. Princia, over to you.
Salam Adaoul. My name is Princia Prior Zafna Germanal. I come from Madagascar, specifically from Antefas community who live in the southwest of Madagascar. And I'm also a strategic manager of Climate Madagascar. We work with young people, young Malagasy people, with to sensibilizing and advocating about climate change. I'm here for the COP. I attend the COP for because of our to sensibilizing youth people in Madagascar, because it's part of our project. We start to sensibilize about climate change last year after some research about this. That many young people in Madagascar don't know about climate change. They think that catastrophe is a curse, and most of the time they don't really see the importance of making action or do something about climate change. The biggest problem now, it's not climate change, but economical problem. So no, even the government don't really make an action about climate change, but because it's not the priority. The priority is economic and social. And that's why I'm here for the COP. I hope I don't really have anxiety, to tell you the truth, because every time it's like catastrophe is like it's normal for us, because as my professor said, we are too resilient. Malagasy people are too resilient. So I'm here because I hope that we can do something and we can have another solution, mobilizing many people, especially government, to take an action in climate change.
Thank you so much, Princia. Yeah, I think that it's a very good reminder as well, and this is why I'm really excited to have all of you on the panel, because so often we put youth into these boxes. So we say youth are anxious, youth are hopeful. In reality, youth are all of us. Youth have a variety of different opinions and feelings, and so here in the context of Madagascar, to know that we're not necessarily anxious, and that there are sort of other priorities, and this idea of sort of having other worries and other cares, and so you can be kind of neutral about climate or even not know, is a very good reminder that there's this need for literacy as well, and sort of why this is a problem, but then again is a reminder of how there are other priorities. I think a lot of the times we are here at COP and we think, oh, climate change is the only and the most important catastrophe that we're facing, but in a lot of contexts there are plenty of others. So thank you very much, and let's continue.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rimsha Rehan, and I'm working as a researcher in Pakistan. And to be honest, something that has made me to come here was just like Gabriel or Grishma, when I was just 15 years old, when I first experienced that how climate change can really impact us. And it has took me almost 10 years to reach to a platform like COP29. And I come from a background which is at this current moment is facing the impact of life and death at this moment. The city of Lahore in Pakistan is basically has reached an air quality index that has crossed more than 400, and we are having a lockdown right now. It's not COVID anymore, but still children are unable to go to school. The hospitals, they have been full, and they have been accommodating patients because they cannot go out. So imagine if somebody tells you right now that your child or your grandchild will be born with a deformity, with a lifelong sickness. Why? Just because of the impacts of climate change. That triggered me right now. We say that the children are the future of the planet, but children are the present. The unborn children are the present right now. So that has what brought me to this platform right now, and I was only 15 years old when I started working for the drive for this climate change. And right now I present a movement known as the Asia People's Movement on Debt and Development, APMDD. You might have seen all of them chanting slogans every day outside in the morning. And I started working with a small village in Pakistan, and we observed that the women specifically had to walk 25 kilometers each day to fill just one bucket of water. And it was not, and that water was unclean actually. They were having issues with malaria, they were having health issues such as hepatitis, water contamination, cholera, and so many others. These were just the health impacts, but also the impacts that were on the children and the women themselves. The children were unable to go to school because they were spending half of their day collecting water for their household needs. So when we worked on that project, we installed a solar watered pump there. We saw that the benefits of that project itself had contributed to 25 years of clean water supply. That, it was a project that I did back in 2016, but that showed me the impact that young people like me can do. I was only in high school and it was just a community service project, like all of us do in their young age. But that made me push to where I am today. That just one, journey had led me. The impact of the innovation and the technology that climate change also brings the opportunity for us to, cater to, and how our actions will actually give an impact. So this was just a journey that has led me here, and I'll give it to him next because I know the
No worries. If I actually
Thank
just
you.
before you hand over the microphone, just could ask you really quickly, because this is pretty stark what you've just shared on the air quality and especially in the impacts of gender and women to access to water. So just to tie it back to sort of emotions and mental health, I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about how your emotional journey was, having been in this space for the past 10 years, and how you're feeling about it now.
So, like I mentioned, initially I was pretty unaware. It was just, a passion for me to work for community service, for sustainability. And when I was actually, saw the first-hand impacts of climate change, it was an alarming situation for me. First, it was shocking for me. Then it instilled a sense of realization in me that, okay, now it's the time that I have to do something. Like Wishma has mentioned, that every action counts. So that emotional journey from being unaware to being, having a sense of, responsibility, and then also a sense of shock in me, and then leading it towards hope and action. This is this sort of journey, and right now, I agree, all of us are feeling anxious and a lot of feeling nervous and uncertain, but then it also made me feel hopeful. Just the opportunity of me speaking here, that my voice is being heard, my voice is being valued, has given me more hope that yes, we have to continue and we cannot give up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Saigo, we'll go ahead, last but not least, over to you.
So I wish we could have saved you for the end, because I have a very gloom and doom perspective about this. So my name's Sagar. I'm from Mumbai, India, and the perspective that I have is, or what keeps me involved in this space is that I want to be in the midst of everything that's happening, because when I think about my daily life or the future decisions that I want to take, such as my family wants to purchase a house in Mumbai, and I am not really that keen to get a house in Mumbai, considering the sea level rising and how within 50 years or something it might not be worthwhile. I do know that 50 years is quite a bit of time down the horizon, but what I also have to keep in mind that whatever I purchase now, or whatever land or apartment I purchase now, my kids will inherit it later. So would it be a good investment to purchase a house at a coastal area? So having these decisions or thinking about the climate crisis while I go on my daily life is scares the shit out of me. And like the other part also is, like for my masters, India has been a land of opportunity. Our economy is growing and things have been going well. Even cost of living is very affordable. I can live a good life in India with the work that I'm doing and the job that I have. But I want to move abroad to Europe because I know that India is not going to combat the climate crisis that well. So just thinking about this and shaping my life around how the climate crisis will be progressively bad every single year is terrifying. And like, the reason I want to be at COP29 is just to understand and be in the middle of things, so that I don't feel that helpless back at home, where I'm just watching the news and just seeing what other people are doing. So what drives me to take climate action is that at least I know, or I can tell the next generation that I did my bit. And the other part is that I have kind of come to a conclusion as well that it's a bit too late to combat the climate crisis. All of us have to deal with it now, and the least, like, the focus or the goal that we should probably work towards now is how can we ensure that it's not the worst of the climate crisis that we see. How can we minimize the impact as much as possible?
Thank you so much, Sagar, and I really appreciate you coming in and being so frank. Of course, it would be nice to end on a happier note, but we are in the middle of our discussion, so there's still plenty of time to come back to the hopeful side. And really the idea here is for us to understand how you all are feeling. So if you're feeling scared, that's okay. We're here to talk about it. So no worries, and it's okay if it's not always a happy picture. So we are going quickly through time, so I'm going to ask all of you just for the next question to be a little bit brief in your responses, but you all work in very diverse areas, in both regionally and in terms of the work that you do. So we're in Mongolia, and Brazil, India, Pakistan, Madagascar. So, and all of you are youth leaders, right? You have youth networks, you've got friends, you've got people you work with, and so I'm going to ask you all now to be a bit of sort of representatives for your communities and those that you work with, and to give us a sense not just of how you as individuals are feeling about the climate crisis, but how are your communities that you're working with feeling? How would you characterize the way in which youth in your regions or your countries, your networks, are feeling? Because again, we tend to put our youth in these boxes and say they're anxious, they're energized, but is that really true? So we're gonna go the other way, just to be fair, not make everybody wait again. So Sagar, I'll hand it over to you. How would you feel that the youth in your communities are feeling?
So I think that way, it's like back home, at least in Mumbai, I'm really glad to say that when I look around, like the circle that I'm a part of, I feel very inspired, because all of them are doing things to combat the climate crisis. And I think in India, the main thing is that someone has to take the lead. Considering that I'm at COP29 now, and so many of my friends are back home, and they wish they could have been at COP29. So this is my privilege or my place from where I can come back, share what I've learned at COP29, and help mobilize or at least put together an initiative that is able to drive them to participate and contribute. So I think it's more about someone taking the lead who knows what they're doing, and I know that other people will follow, because I'm not the only one who feels this way. There are quite a few people, but they don't know what to do, how to help out. And I think just giving them that platform as to this is what you can do, this is how you can help out, and you can mentor them, then they will further on go and create their own initiative and mobilize another set of youth. So I think this is the power of a community.
Thank you so much, and I think that's something we're really hearing a lot about, of missing the resources of solutions and action. So feeling that there could be much more done from the youth community if they only knew what to do is a really useful takeaway from this. So Ramsha, over to you.
Yeah, so I feel that the community that I come from the global south, they feel dependent actually. Today I am not representing my country only, but I am representing the communities, the indigenous communities and the individuals who could not be here. So just to give you an example, we work a lot in the Thar community, that's the southern part of Pakistan, and they have been severely impacted from floods as well as coal mining activities. Now these are those individuals who do not understand the word climate change. They do not know what environmental degradation is, what air pollution is. They can just, realize the impacts of it. So I feel that those communities feel dependent on young leaders like us, that they will be the ones who will talk to the global north, or they will talk amongst the global south as well for collaboration to find out solutions on how they can be saved, and not just them but for the future generations as well. So I think the communities feel dependent. They also feel hopeful. They feel hopeful that the youth of our nation will enable action, and they want to join hands together as well, within themselves and globally as well, to collaborate. So I think this is my answer. I'll give the mic to it.
Thanks so much. It's good to hear that they're feeling hopeful, but that might be a big weight on your shoulders if they're dependent on these future communities, right? And this is a big thing that we can talk about in terms of youth as well, that we're often told that youth are the solution, they're the ones that will solve the problem. And so seeing that in your day-to-day reality and really feeling like, oh, well, we're the ones who have to solve it, when it's maybe there's this huge sense of justice, right? That this isn't necessarily our problem to solve, but good to hear that they're hopeful, and that this is hopefully something we can work toward. So Prince, you've mentioned already the Madagascar context and sort of hearing about the ways in which people are not necessarily anxious or caring, but also that there's this sense of disasters as some sort of curse. And so I'm wondering if you could speak more to that.
Yeah. Sorry. About this, yeah, as I've already said, in my local community, they are most of the time they think that it's a curse, so they don't really think about this. But in our association, I saw that many young people, most of our benevolent, start to be very interested about climate change, especially this year. It's like, I think that they see that there is a difference between when they take action and if they just stay here and wait catastrophe and something like this. And that's a good point too, because I see that when you start to be in an organization or to take an action, and your environment sensibilize you about climate change, it's like you start to be hopeful, and you start to have some opinions, some ideas about climate change, and maybe find a solution. Of course, there is no specific solution, especially from Madagascar, because we have many different situations, many different problems in climate change. For example, in the north we have an inundation, and in the south of Madagascar we have desertification. So we're trying to find solution in specific region, and that's it. That's the interesting thing about young people in Madagascar, because they have many ideas when they start to take an action. Yeah.
That's very true, and we'll certainly need diverse climate solutions for the diverse climate impacts that are being faced in one country, and let alone across the entire world. So good to hear that those who are involved are starting to get much more involved to take action, because as many of you know, I'm sure a lot of us can feel anxious, but that doesn't necessarily translate to action then. So seeing that they are sort of moving forward and seeing what they can do, hopefully will be this domino effect that then they tell more, they get inspired, and then their friends and others will contribute. So we're very quickly coming to the end of time, so I'm going to ask Meg and JP to just remember to be brief in your responses, but if you could give us again just a reminder of how youth in your communities are feeling.
Well, Brazil is a huge country and continental country, and we have the same case in Madagascar, from south to north, different scenarios. But what we've been seeing, and this year especially, is that it has been 365 days of extreme events, one after the other, one in each region. We had just had 3 months of droughts and burning of the forest in the Amazon region, which is normally the most humid region in the country, totally dry. And then we had a huge flood in the extreme south of the country, which would be normally a dry region as well, but the floods on all states. 1,200 schools destroyed, 400,000 students impacted. What we've been seeing, the response to this on the youth community, is that we had a survey this year that presented that I don't remember the data specifically, but it was over 80% of the youth that was interviewed, they are concerned about climate change. They are aware and concerned. So that responds a little bit of how they're feeling as well, and about how the majority really knows what is happening and have been seen. Some in any part of Brazil they have suffered this. So I think it has been something to look forward to. What the survey always also brings is the lack of really power to see what they can do right about this, because then is that feeling of being powerless and not knowing how to deal with this. And one of the reasons for that is also the political crisis that we've been going on in Brazil and many other places in the world. No wonder we've been challenging so much to have to move forward on decisions, because with war all over, with a lot of this political crisis, we've been seeing this challenge. So Brazil is suffering that, and what definitely we need to see is how these youth, because in Brazil we can start voting after 16, but it's only obligatory after 18, and it's obligatory. But so we've been shifting a lot of this political knowledge and citizenship, so they can really, well, to do what we need to do best for change and democracy, right? To elect the good people to be there, the right people to be there, and we are lacking that so the youth needs to really come back with this power. Of course, a lot has been done, a lot of youth movements coming in Brazil, but when we look on the big picture, that's how they're feeling.
Great, thanks so much for that. And it's good to hear at least that they're informed, but it's really unfortunate that that comes from extremes. And then, of course, when you're confronted with climate change firsthand, then you'll be a little bit more aware of it. But we do hope that 80% will lead. And thank you very much for the reminder on the governance aspect, because I think something we don't really talk a lot about, especially in these forums. We try to stick away from the politics of it all, but at the end of the day, it's our leaders who are making the decisions. And so it's a good reminder to all of us that for those that live in countries where they can vote, that's the number one thing to do. So Meg, we'll hand it over to you as our last speaker, please. How are things going in Mongolia? How are the youth feeling?
So actually, this is a very interesting question, because throughout the programs that we have implemented through our NGOs, we actually did try to really observe what are the feelings of young people around the country. So we did feel a very huge difference depending on their socioeconomic status, their access to education, where they are located. And our country actually having a huge divide among the urban population and those living in rural areas or nomads. 40% of the population living in as nomads. I could observe a stark difference. And actually hearing also from Madagascar's case, I also felt a bit relatable to it, because the way people living as nomads, young people, it is quite similar. Our culture, our indigenous culture, is very much connected to the nature itself. Even our belief system, our religion is actually to worship the nature itself. So people would feel very devastated seeing the impacts such as shrinking water resources, etc. And then they would feel that it is something that is being like a curse, like it's something that is sent by the gods. So that is the way they would feel, but not necessarily connected to climate science. So they would not really connect the dots between climate change and the land and the environmental degradation. However, when it comes to those who have access to education, quality education, especially those who speak English, who have, the access to get educated in English, so they have access to climate knowledge, and they are the ones who are actually taking action, because they have the the access to knowledge, which also, I think, highlights the fact that the climate knowledge in my country is not accessible in our local languages, and there is a huge gap. So we can see that even the way young people feel about climate change really depends on their location, geographic location, which is what we are trying to actually bridge the gap through our NGO. So briefly about
Excellent. Thank you so much, and what a great note to end on. And I think it's a very good reminder to tie us back into the climate science, which is what we're all here for, right? Is to then make sure that that science gets to everybody, and it's not just then those who are in the urban areas and who are educated, but to every community and to all children, all youth, all adults even. We're hearing a lot about this, of making sure that the science is then accessible in local languages. It's accessible to young people, that we can sort of break down this communication in a way that then is actionable also. I think this is something we're really hearing from across the panel, is that youth across the board need more information on how they can do something and where are the solutions. So I'm going to ask you all as a final question to give me an answer to what brings you hope, or what gives you hope. We want to end on a happy note, and in just one word. So I know that's going to be hard to distill. So in order to let you think about, and I'm going to hold you to one word. So if you start your I, that's the answer, okay? So please be thinking about that. And we've got about 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So it's a little bit bleak in our audience, and I thank those who are here. It's a very difficult slot at lunchtime. Everybody's in the food court. But I want to see if there are any questions from our audience members here today. Yeah?
Hi, thank you all for your very inspiring words. I work as a climate scientist for the Irish Met Service. We produce climate data. We'd like to reach more younger people. We'd like to broaden our audience. Is there anything that you would recommend that we do, things that we produce? How do we connect more with younger people, essentially?
So I think one of the things is you can probably reach out to Yongo. Yongo is the official Children and Youth constituency. They have a particular working group called the Science Working Group, and they have another working group as well called the Youth Learning Working Group. I think probably organizing capacity building webinars within the constituency is a good start, because the constituency is the one who presents what are the demands of children and young people across the world to the parties at COP every year. So I think that will probably be a good start. Yeah. And the other part would be is probably check out which youth organizations are running in where your office is based. I'm sure that there'll be a couple of you taking climate action there. I think supporting the ones around you would also be a good start.
Thanks so much for that, Sagar. I think that's the perfect answer to the question. Also, just to let you know that the reason why we're having this event today is that WMO is currently working on creating a youth action plan, and part of that will be helping our members with capacity development and how to translate materials into more youth-friendly and accessible formats. So stay tuned and let us know also what you hear, because we'd love to hear from the Met Services at a national level on how to improve.
I just want to add to your point that the best way to reach to youth, like we also discussed in the event before, is that the use of social media. Because most of the social media, most of the youth right now might not be able to read the reports or go to the websites directly, but they're all very active on social media. And LinkedIn is one of the platforms that the youth is actively looking at opportunities, as well as places on where they can contribute. So I would really recommend, if you, whatever work that your organization is doing, post that on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and that's the best way to actually reach to the youth and get them more engaged. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. It's a very friendly reminder. Always the answer is better social media and comms. So hopefully that has now given you all some time to think about your answers, and I'm just going to remind everybody the question is, what gives you hope in one word? So Sagar, we'll start with you.
I think I'm going to pick action.
That was way more than one word. Just a reminder, I'll be friendly, but action, we put in action in one word. Okay.
Impact.
Impact.
Solidarity.
Solidarity.
COP for Children.
COP for
That is a
Children.
hashtag.
Okay.
That's a hashtag.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Resilience.
Resilience. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. and to especially our young panelists and our keynote who are no longer visible, but really would like to thank all of you again for being here, and to especially our panelists today. This has been really instrumental, and like I just mentioned, the WMO is currently in the process of creating our youth action plan. So we'll certainly be following up with all of you to see how we can get your excellent insights that you've offered today to help us sort of improve climate science more institutionally. So thanks so much, and stick around. There is an event at 2 o'clock, and then another one we're really excited at 3:15 will be our intergenerational dialogue. So bringing more young people like yourselves up to speak with the leaders of our organizations to see how they can do better. Thanks so much, guys.
For the moderator.
Thank you. Thanks so much, you guys. That was so good. I'm so sad there was not so many people in the audience, but.